today is Thursday, and on Sunday, a long time ago now, relatively, the British Grand Prix happened at Silverstone. And it was an interesting race. We'll talk about more of it. I got a little behind this week, and I plan to have a really good plan this week for F1. It's a plan I'm happy about. I'm going to do a lot better job with Formula One this week. Remember, I'm new to the sport, and the NBA happened. I just got behind it, and I'm sorry that this video is so late. But since I'm so late, as I hiccup and cough, since I'm so late this week talking about the Formula One race, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with it. I get a ton of crap from British F1 fans that tell me, for the way I say two words, they say is wrong to them. And it's funny to me. I say Grand Prix with a D sound, Grand Prix. And they're like, wow, Zach, it's Grand Prix with a no D sound. Maybe they're right. I don't know. And then I say Silverstone with an E. And they say Silverstone, like silver and then like a stun gun, Silverstone. Silverstone. They say it quickly like that. And so Grand Prix makes sense. It's actually easier to say Grand Prix than Grand Prix. Hey, take off the D, no problem. Is it really Silverstone or is it Silverstone? I don't know. I'm actually asking a question. I honestly have no idea what's right because I'm not convinced I'm automatically right. Why is there an E on Silverstone if it's Silverstone? And maybe I should say it's your guys' word, not mine. Silverstone is, as I did it there, is in the UK, so maybe it's got UK pronunciation. You don't say Charles Leclerc because he's not from America, and so you say it differently to, that's how you say his name. But I also know that Brits say Watsa instead of water. They say Watsa instead of water. And they say schedule instead of schedule, right? And they say, in America, we say mobile. You guys say mobile. So there's different pronunciations, whether you're across the pond or you're here. And I'm not angry. I hope it's very clear. I think it's funny that I constantly am getting people saying, you're pronouncing this wrong and this wrong. And some of that is just because I'm American. Some of that is because maybe, is Silverstone really not with an E? Is it Silverstone? Question mark? I don't know. Is that a British pronunciation or is that just how it's pronounced, period? I don't know. But it's fun. I want to go back to the race, but please give me feedback because I want to hear from you guys. I'm curious what you guys have to say. Now, I've got a lot to say about the race, the British Grand Prix. It was the fourth race of the year in Formula One. And I would call the race a slow burn where, initially I was really disappointed. One of my favorite storylines from this race was that I wanted to watch Nico Hülkenberg drive a Racing Point car, and we never even got the chance because the car didn't race. It had engine trouble, and there was no car racing. There was no second car for Racing Point last weekend. And the first 18 laps of the race were very, very dull. You had, other than Kevin Magnussen having an incident with Alex Albon and crashing, and then Daniel Kvyat crashed. Other than that, and by the way, I felt especially bad for Daniel Kvyat. Kvyat. Thank you. Wow, see, American, idiot, that's me, lizard brain. Daniel was pissed and upset when he crashed, and I gotta say, I have no kind of idea what kind of pressure he's under, where maybe he's afraid for the sake of his job. He's like, I can't afford to crash. I can't afford to have a wreck. And I do want to skip ahead, though, now, too. I want to skip ahead, and we'll circle back at the end, where Max Verstappen was in third place going into the final lap of the British Grand Prix. And when Valtteri Bottas had tire failure, had to take a pit on lap 51 of 52, Max was now in second place. And so that meant Max Verstappen was basically guaranteed 18 points for second place automatically. And at the time, he was 15 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, who was in first place. And there's no way you're going to close a 15-second gap in one lap. It's impossible. So Max Verstappen is locked into second. And what he decided to do is he went into pit lane. That cost him 20 seconds. So he went from being 15 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton to now 35 seconds roughly behind Lewis Hamilton. However, with fresh, soft tires, Max Verstappen was able to make a really good run at fastest lap. In fact, he did get fastest lap. He moved up. That gives him one more point in the standings. So he went from having 18 points in second place to 19 because second place points plus the fastest lap. He actually set a new track record at Silverstone. And that's a smart tactic, if you ask me. I go, wow, hey, great move. Got fastest lap, 18 points, plus the 1, 19 points. However, on the final lap, there's 52 laps. Lap 51, Max takes a pit stop, wants faster tires. On lap 52, the very last lap of the entire race, Lewis Hamilton got a flat tire. As I drink what is now, it's pineapple sludge because it's warm enough. It's pineapple juice that if you sit long enough and the bottom gets all dregs. Point is, Lewis Hamilton got a flat tire on the final lap of the race. And it was wild because Lewis Hamilton was just dragging his car along the track. I mean, I haven't seen anything like that in my time watching Formula One where he's just dragging his car to the finish line. He's got a flat tire. The tire's all ruptured. Sparks are flying everywhere behind the car. It reminded me of like the scene in, what is it, Cars? The original Cars where Lightning McQueen is like jumping and scraping his car's tires on like nothing down the road. It was not exactly that, but like similar to that. It had that kind of vibe. Literally as Lewis Hamilton crossed the finish line to win the race, Max Verstappen was coming around the corner behind him. I mean, Max Verstappen gained about 34 of the 35 seconds he had behind Lewis Hamilton because of Lewis Hamilton's tire failure. And so the question becomes, if Max, and not really a question either, more of a statement, reality, if Max Verstappen had not taken the pit stop, then he would have won. Factual statement, Lewis Hamilton only won because Max Verstappen took a pit stop with 1 lap to go. Max was on tires that were in no danger, and the only reason he got new tires was to get that fastest lap. And I've seen some people say that Red Bull is stupid for the pit stop, and I could not disagree more. I think you have to maximize your performance, and the pit stop is smart because it earned them an extra point they were not going to get anyway. Red Bull cannot tell the future. And yes, Max would have won if they hadn't taken a pit stop in lap 51 to try to earn fastest lap. It cost him 6 points. And if Max had not done the pit stop again, would have won. Max would have had 25 points. He would have had no fastest lap, though. And Lewis Hamilton would have gotten second. And the driver's standings would have sounded like this if that had happened. Lewis Hamilton would have had 81 points and been in first. And Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas would have had a tie for second place with 58 points between the two of them. Instead, what happened is Max got second place at the British Grand Prix and is now in third place with 52 points in the Formula One standings. And I just go back to saying that Red Bull did the right thing because with the information they had at the time, they were maximizing their performance. They took a pit stop, they had new tires, they got fastest lap, they got 1 more point, and by the way, they set a new track record. That makes sense to me. And Red Bull could not have possibly known that Lewis Hamilton was going to blow a tire. You just can't know. Even though I know that the other Mercedes, the Valtteri Bottas' car, had a tire issue. And I know that Lewis Hamilton, the tire issue for Lewis Hamilton, I guess, was not guaranteed, is what I'm trying to say. You just can't know the future there. Even though the other one had a problem and blew a tire, you can't know that also Lewis Hamilton is going to do the same thing. So I believe Red Bull did the right thing. I really go back to, I think Max Verstappen, in fact, in his post-game interview, his initial reaction was, well, like, you can't know that's going to happen, hindsight 2020. If Max Verstappen wasn't pissed after the race, I don't know why other people would be, because I think Red Bull did the right thing with the information they had at the time. And you can't live your life going, what if blank? Because that's no way to live your life. Now, Racing Point had a bad day. Not only did they have one car that just simply did not even start the race, they also had poor car pace with Lance Stroll's car as well. Lance Stroll got 9th place. And Racing Point looked a lot more like they used to under their old team name, Team Force India. And part of my skepticism all along the way about Racing Point has been that it's not just the fact that they need to have a good car. It's the team, it's the talent, and it's also the organization. Your organization is important. You can have really, really talented people that are useless if they're given the wrong tools. I mean, I think Nico Hülkenberg is a great racing driver. And he didn't even move the car out of the garage because, and that's, by the way, you say garage in the UK. We say garage. Nico Hülkenberg didn't even go in the race because his car wasn't working. So my biggest question with the Racing Point is not their car. It's the organization making tweaks to the car. It's Lance Stroll. Is he really that talented? I have so many questions about Racing Point, and it's not about their engine or the fact that it's a Mercedes, maybe a copy of the Mercedes. It's about the other stuff that's like, are these the right people making decisions that can actually get third place in Formula One? I don't know. Now, Carlos Sainz also had a tire issue at the end of the race. It cost him points for McLaren. So Ferrari got 16 points on the day. Charles Leclerc got 15 points. He got third place. Sebastian Vettel got 1 point. He got 10th place. McLaren got 10 points on the day, not because of Carlos Sainz, who had a tire issue at the end. Lando Norris got 5th place. That's 10 points for McLaren. And so after the race number 4 of Formula One, the Constructors' Cup standings sound like this. You have Mercedes at number 1. They have 146 points. They are dominant. Behind them, Red Bull is number 2. They have 78 points. Then you have McLaren with 51 points. They're in 3rd place. Ferrari is in 4th place with 43 points. And Racing Point has 42 points in 5th place. Now, the battle for 3rd place in Formula One is going to be really, really interesting down the stretch. And I'm really curious also, is Red Bull going to screw up somehow? If Max Verstappen has retirement or something goes wrong, they could actually end up losing their 2nd place spot. There's no guarantee yet that Red Bull is going to finish 2nd behind Mercedes. A lot of stuff to follow. It's going to be very interesting. Now, one of my favorite moments from race number 4 was during a yellow flag. Everybody's driving, they're following the safety car. And Ferrari tells Charles Leclerc, they're like, hey man, you got to do work on the tires. You got to warm up the tires. And Leclerc goes, I'm trying. The safety car is going too slow. And the reality was that the safety car was going 137 miles an hour. And for you British people, that means that the car was going 220 kilometers an hour. I said almost say kilometer miles. That's not a thing. So for a normal human being, 137 miles an hour, 220 kilometers an hour, that's really fast. And I mean, the Mercedes car was going full tilt around that track. And it's so interesting to me that 137 miles an hour, which for me, that's blazing fast if I'm driving that car. For a guy like Charles Leclerc driving an F1 car, that's still too slow to even get work done on his tires. Oh my goodness. It really shows. I love that moment because it shows the gap between an F1 car and a normal car. It's just a gigantic disparity between F1 drivers and everybody else. And now, the final thing I want to talk about after this race is that we're 4 races in, and Alex Albon is, man, I don't know. He had a really interesting day in the 4th weekend of Formula One. He had a 5-second penalty for a Kevin Magnussen wreck, which he got blamed for, basically. He started 12th place. He really struggled in qualifying. And it was an ugly race that, in the end, I will give Alex Albon credit, he managed to salvage. He got 4 points for 8th place. And so Alex Albon is really in a tough place for me where I go, he's not doing well enough, in my opinion. Part of why Red Bull isn't closer to Mercedes is because Alex Albon has not appeared to be pulling enough of his weight. He's 6th in the standings with only 26 points on the year. And it feels like Max Verstappen driving for Red Bull needs more help. But I'm also not ready to give up on Alex Albon quite yet. I mean, there was a moment early in the year where he made a move to pass Lewis Hamilton. Now that Lewis Hamilton was a little bit cheeky and a little bit wrong when he kind of tossed Alex Albon off the track and made him spin out. But I think the mentality by Alex Albon to go for it, to try to pass Lewis Hamilton, that's huge. That's a big deal. That's interesting. I mean, don't forget where we came from. Early on in the year, Alex Albon was about to beat or pass Lewis Hamilton. He's not a total garbage driver. He's having a rough patch. He's struggling, but he's also young. There's a lot left to go for Alex Albon. Remember, Max Verstappen took a while. He had a lot of crashes and a lot of wrecks. It made a lot of people angry before Max Verstappen became the racer he is today. I think Alex Albon just needs a little bit of patience. The dude can race. He just needs time to develop. Red Bull, if I had a favorite team, it probably is Red Bull. I like Max Verstappen. I think he's You ever watch the video of Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen playing football? Like, holy crap, Max Verstappen looks awkward. And like a guy, you're like, that dude's an athlete? Oh my gosh. And they are. To be a driver, you have to be an athlete to some degree. He's not coordinated to play football at all. I like Max Verstappen. I think Alex Albon is interesting. I love Christian Horner. And as a guy who leans towards liking Red Bull, maybe just because they're the underdog and it'd be cool to see them beat Mercedes someday. As a guy who like that, Alex Albon is a person I want Red Bull to stick around with and to hang on to and keep giving patience to, because I think his future is bright. He just needs to be given room to make mistakes and learn and grow. And ultimately, Alex Albon needs to be given room to develop.